had to be a reduction of $10 billion. But this year, what we did this budget year was that we did a 2-year education budget, which means that we'll be adding $800 million to education this year. And I think that should help a lot of our school districts, because I agree with you. We need to have good teachers. We need to have good schools. And I've been working on a lot of initiatives to improve what is offered to students. For example, there's a creative idea to do a regional high school locally where you could just expand the course offerings beyond belief. And we need to look at creative ways to deliver the services and
well, in our
make
school,
sure that
I can't speak for statewide, but I know that in our school, I don't know if it went through, but it was definitely on the agenda. They did have a meeting about it. They were planning to cut foreign languages, or at least I believe they teach 2, and they were planning to cut one of the 2 foreign languages. I just feel like, however, there is no cut to the sports, especially like football, which is very popular.
Or bus service, which they could also cut.
And well, I don't know, if I lived out in the country, I'd want a bus.
Yeah, yeah.
But
that's true. I used to ride the bus myself.
Yeah.
Me too.
No, but you're absolutely right, and that's why we did this 2-year budget, because it was a very difficult year, this budget year. But we do have $800 million set aside to increase education funding, and I'm very hopeful that we can actually increase that number even more.
Well, I hope so too, because I understand we need to cut corners, but there's a lot of places. In fact, one of the things that was being proposed is to have a new senator because of reapportionment or whatever, and they were kept having, something was happening, but they were going, the New York State Senate was debating about whether to have a new senator put in to make it even.
Don Stater, of course.
Well, that actually doesn't matter where it came from, but it's true. But since things are so tight, it was because they kept having ties, and this was to make it uneven or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. And my suggestion was, instead of cutting, adding a new senator, which would mean new offices, all the staff involved, the perks involved, everything that's involved, plus the salaries. Why don't we cut one senator, and we'd still achieve the fact that there would no longer be ties and so forth, and it would save us money, not cost us money.
Well, actually there are no decisions yet. There are hearings going on about redistricting. As you know, every 10 years everybody has to go through this in government on all levels, because population shifts and there are changes, and so you have to have equal districts. So all of those hearings are going on right now. They've been all over the state, in every corner of the state. So there really isn't any plan out there. There's just a lot of ideas floating around. I know that there's a lot of interest, for example, in having Chautauqua County for the congressional district be put back in with the southern tier the way it was.
That was a real screw job.
Right.
When we were put in with Buffalo. You say you could go into Congress. There's no way, because Buffalo has 2 million voters for the nomination. What do we got?
Well, it's hard because,
100,000?
and I don't know if you remember Congressman Emil Houghton, but he worked very hard to try to keep that district together.
A rural district, right.
A rural district, so you had this fabric of communities that were very much alike, that had similar needs and similar interests. And so there wasn't one part of the district that dominated the other, which oftentimes is what we see now. And so, but none of those decisions have been made yet. They're just going through the process, getting a lot of public input. And if you have input, I'm sure that they would welcome it. In fact, I know they would. There's actually a website, it's LATFOR, L-A-T-F-O-R, and citizens can go to the website and give their input. You have some great ideas, and I would encourage you to do that.
I will do that, actually.
That's great. Good.
L-A-T-F-O-R.
L-A-T-F-O-R.
Okay.
If you Google that.
Okay, there you thank you, caller.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And happy birthday this week, Mr. Powers.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I'm getting so old, though. I don't need any more birthdays.
Yeah, but you know what the alternative to having that birthday is, don't you?
I know.
That's true.
Keep having them, sir.
Right. Yeah, I talked to somebody about the school monies in New York State, which are being cut back, chopped, and of course, whenever the state chops money, it just raises the local taxes, of course, for the money you need. And that's Governor Chris's big trick over in New Jersey. He's been complimented for balancing money. For some reason, throughout the education money, no problem.
Right. Well, the other thing that happened in this budget, even though we cut out $10 billion, the governor's cuts to education were even deeper. So the Senate said, we've got to do something about this. So we're actually, through negotiations, we were able to add another $272 million to education this year. So it was a tough year. There's no doubt about it. You have to make tough decisions. And the caller talked about saving money, and that's what we've been focused on too in the Senate. We actually have cut $4 million out of the Senate budget. So there has to be cuts across the board. You have to make government more streamlined. If there's waste, you have to get rid of it. And one of the other areas where we focused on has to do with Medicaid and getting rid of fraud. And there's several things, bills that I have that would actually get rid of the fraud. And we have to do that because, people have a tough time paying their taxes, and when somebody rips off the system, they're ripping off all of the taxpayers.
Some of the people having tough times are the ones who are ripping off the system. They have nowhere else to go.
Well, maybe, but maybe not. There was recently a case on Long Island, and there was this family, and both the mother and the father got welfare checks. But at the same time, they lived in a $500,000 home, and they had 2 luxury cars, and they owned rental property. Now, that's not right. And, those are the types of people who you have to catch.
All right, but since it's based on income, they can get away with it legally, can't they?
Well, they
couldn't have a business, probably. But
they weren't able to before, but unfortunately, Governor Patterson, under the welfare program, took away some of the fraud controls, like finger imaging, face-to-face interviews, and looking at people's assets. And those were put into place. Remember back in the mid-90s when President Clinton put in place welfare reform and the states had to adopt it?
I remember that.
At that time in New York State, 1 out of every 11 people in the state was on welfare, and 1 out of every 7 in New York City was on welfare. And so they put in these welfare fraud controls in the mid-90s, in 1995. Almost immediately, the welfare rolls went down 30% because there was so much fraud in the system.
And Social Security and disability jumps about 30% because they switched over to that.
Well, no, I don't think so.
A lot of them.
I don't
like
think so.
The kids down
I'm
in
talking
New York.
about the people who, maybe were working too, but they're also getting a check and those sorts of things.
That's
It's
a
not good
complicated
stuff.
issue, especially since welfare is not enough to live on. You have to get some money somewhere to survive it. All right, now, I wanted to point out that I talked to somebody about this education matter, and he said, hey, it doesn't really matter. Statistically, over half the kids who graduate in New York State go out of state anyway, because of the taxes and the regulations
That's
and
what
everything.
we have to change,
So we don't
exactly.
we don't have to worry about education.
That's
Here, the hell with them. If they're all going to run off to
exactly what we have
if
to
they're all
change.
going to run away
That's
somewhere.
why we said no new taxes. We've got to start to turn this around. We've got to get focused on the economy, and so that we have careers for our kids, because it really is a big problem. And I think in a lot of cases now, even parents and even some of the schools are saying to the kids, if you want a good job, you have to leave.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the case. There are a lot of good careers right here in Chautauqua County. There was just a company in Jamestown that was saying they couldn't find enough engineers and welders and jobs like that. So we have to have a better coordination between what's happening in the school districts and what the local labor needs are.
Yeah, we got to coordinate the HEAP incidentally. You talk about cutting seniors. Seniors they're throwing them under the bus. I mean, this is Medicaid, Medicare, which is Medicaid is half seniors, and they're chopping. Even the county's chopping off the aging and all these other things. The carts, which senior need, that's a bus service, and the
Right,
senior
I know
need.
the bus service.
And now I noticed HEAP, the heat assistance program, has been cut in half by the Fed, and also they sneakily even cut it more by changing the season. In other words, you could get it for a longer season when it was winter up here. Now they cut you short by a month.
Yeah,
So
I think it's all indicative
this is
of,
seniors,
Right, I know, and seniors obviously should be a priority. I think it's all indicative, though, of the deficits that we have in Washington and the national economy and all those issues. But I have written to the congressional delegation asking them to make sure that they fund HEAP at a proper level, because I know personally that a lot of people in my Senate district here in Chautauqua County and across the southern tier depend on having heat because they can't afford to heat their homes
Yeah,
in the
well, I'd
winter.
say there's kind of a struggle going on between the South and the North on the heat money. The South saying, well, we get bad weather too, we need some heat. They should have a winter up near Buffalo, I'll tell you, where we
know.
live. Then, they said, you got all the heat, but don't worry about it. We're sitting here with Cathy Young, our state senator, who's doing a fantastic job for us up here in Chautauqua County, and hopefully maybe we'll be able to switch back out of a urban senatorial district or whatever, congressional district, I should
Congressional
say.
district,
Cheney did that, they tell me, incidentally. He lifted the phone and made some contacts. And suddenly, instead of being a farm community, we're going from rural, we're now a urban community bunched in with Buffalo, New York. Try to get a congressman out of this when you got so many voters who are going against you.
But I think that shows you too, though, like drawing the maps isn't easy for redistricting, and you have to make sure that you have communities of like interests put together. And so when you don't, and you have an urban area that dominates a rural area, it does cause issues.
No, it blew us apart. Back when Emma was here, it was a different game altogether. And he was a real champ. He came in regularly and talked with us, although we haven't heard much from our current
He's doing well.
congressman.
I speak to him every
yeah?
so often. He's doing well.
Does he still own Corning Glass?
No, he doesn't own it, but his family is still involved with it. But I think his wife has been a little under the weather,
is that so?
That's been hard for him. But he's doing very well.
No, he's a terrific guy, and he'd come in here and lambaste him. Okay, now we're sitting here with Cathy, and we got a couple of phone calls, so we're going to hit a phone call here. What do you think?
That's great.
All right, good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning.
Well,
And,
hi.
Good morning, Kathy. It's so great to see you on the show.
Well, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And I want to thank you again for all the help and support that you have given us, especially in our senior employment program and our senior computer training program.
Oh, okay, yes.
Reed, did you know that Kathy has come, or if she wasn't able to come, she would send one of her representatives from her office, and Kathy came quite a few times herself to every senior computer training graduation that we have had so far.
How about that? Did you learn to use a computer?
Yes, I did. They taught me a few tricks, which was great. Oh, it's such a great program, and I'm so proud of the seniors because I think sometimes, I mean, we know this, sometimes computers can be scary if you've never used one, and the enthusiasm in the class is really, it's great, but it's really because of the instructors and the people who actually teach them, so I want to thank you for that.
Well, we really appreciate it, and you even posted a picture of us on your website.
Well, how about that?
I know, that was great. That was a great day,
Yeah, well,
and I'm just so proud of everybody.
It's important for seniors. They do all their emailing their kids and everything. And you're right about knowing how to run a senior isn't a computer isn't so important. It's when it crashes on you or screws you up.
Right.
And mine yesterday, I heard this announcement that just call me Hal.
It said that to you?
It said that to
me. So do you have another class coming up?
Well, we've got classes going on simultaneously, especially we have one in Fredonia that's very, very busy, and another one in Westfield, and of course we have the Olean site too. So we're doing quite well with that. But you know, Kathy, we have experienced, and I know that you're aware of this, federally, a 45% budget cut for senior employment programs nationally. That's almost half of what we have had to work with.
Yeah, it's really tough when you have those kinds of cuts, I know.
And we haven't been able to put any new senior aides on. They've been getting jobs, but even when they leave one of their sites where they're working, which we call host agencies, we can't replace them.
You're throwing the seniors under the bus, I'm telling you. It's right down the lane. I just saw them hauling a big trailer down into the park by the river, or the water down there in Chautauqua. I said, what? It had already got a sign on it, Office for the Aging.
No, it doesn't read. And Kathy, don't let him give you any of his cat food or hors d'oeuvres either.
I won't. I know better. I've learned the hard way.
Well, that's what seniors are going to be eating because they don't give us our true cola. That little cola just is going to be eaten up by our health care, I might add.
But you know, you have such great programs, and I know that you make a difference in a lot of lives. And so how do you, if somebody wants to get signed up for a program, is there a way to do it?
What we do is, it's usually by word of mouth. They call our office, and of course we meet with them if they're in Jamestown or Dunkirk.